Hello everybody and welcome back to the Two Norries podcast. I am your host James Leonard, joined by my good friend, a very tanned Timmy Long.
Hi everyone.
He's just back from his holidays, he looks bronze.
I'm bronze now and a stone and a half heavier than what I was.
And you can have a lot of fun losing it.
Yeah,
And that's all
trust me James, I will have a lot of fun losing it.
Rowan is on the decks as always. Say hi, Ron.
Hi, Ron.
And this week we've a friend of the family, Rebecca Murphy, local lady from Farnry, makeup artist, and your mother is friends with Rowan's mother and my auntie Claire and that, so it's great to have you on. And you're also a fan of the podcast.
Yeah, great fan. I'm the third now.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Rowan.
But you were at the show we did recently with Blind Boy.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Oh, unreal.
Yeah, it's cool.
I wanted you to pick each other's minds anyway. Like.
Yeah, it was great to be on with him. But thanks for your support anyway up to
No
now.
bother.
And it's great to have you on. The reason you're on is because you want to talk and bring awareness around the medical condition you have is cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, for the people that don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you grew up.
I'm Rebecca. I'm from Farnry in the Northside. I'm 36.
Same age as me.
Same age as
What part of Farnry?
well, Fairhill.
Fairhill.
Just below the Fairfields by Valley View.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm a makeup artist. I'm working for the last 5 years now as a makeup artist. I took a year out when I got sick at the start of the pandemic, but I'm back now since last May.
Very good. What was it like growing up?
I had grand childhood, really. Like, I was no different to everyone else. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't wrapped in cotton wool or anything.
Yeah. And did you go to Farnry School?
No, St. Vincent's. I was St.
Controversial.
Vincent's. Yeah, controversial, I know. Even though I spent more time over outside Farnry Girls' School, to be fair.
Yeah.
But no, I had a normal childhood, like.
Did your medical condition impact on your childhood?
I wasn't diagnosed till I was 2.5. And they were like giving my mum the runaround, really. They were treating me for a knotted gut. They were saying my mum was overfeeding me when I was like malnourished. Like,
What kind of symptoms would you have as a baby?
see, it don't just affect your lungs at all. See, it affects every part of your body, really. Like, a lot of people don't know that. They think it's just primarily the lungs, like. But what it is, it affects your digestive system. So I wasn't thriving. So, like, I'd have to take tablets now with all my food, crayon, to break down the enzyme. My pancreas don't produce the enzyme that breaks down food. So I need to take tablets to replace that enzyme. And obviously, when I was 2.5, like, up until I was 2.5, I wasn't gaining any weight, like, all that kind of thing. Just wasn't thriving in general.
Yeah.
My chest wasn't really at me until I got older.
What was it like in primary school?
Grand, only for like constantly coughing, you know, constantly sick.
Yeah.
Like, I constantly picked up every infection going, but I was still grand though. Do you know, I still wasn't very, very sick. Like, I've known people that were in and out of hospital their whole life when they were younger. I didn't get sick till my teens. Do you know, I always kind of had digestive issues, but not really in my lungs till I became a teenager. Like,
What was it like then in your teens?
well, I think my first time really in hospital with CF was when I was about 13. I remember I got the pneumonia jab and the flu jab together one day, and I went very bad then, and that was kind of the start of it, but I still wasn't bad. It was my first major infection, you know. And you get, like, with CF as well, like, there's Pseudomonas, Staph aureus, all these kind of bugs that you get in your lungs that wouldn't bother healthy people, you know, whereas they'd wreak havoc then with our lungs. And I think that was when they first started culturing that, you know, Pseudomonas, like, that's kind of the main one that people would get, like, you know.
Will you tell us what cystic fibrosis is?
Yeah, it's hereditary anyway, to me.
Okay, that
was your question.
Yeah.
It's basically, so your mum and dad have to have, like, both parents have to have one copy of the gene, and the gene, like, it's very technical now, but it's, what I understand of it is, like, there's a defect on some kind of chromosome or whatever that causes it. You can't break down the proteins and stuff in the cell. The cell can't, like, can't break down the protein, and it don't, like, you know, the way salt comes in and out, that's what we used to be called salty babies. Like, if you lick my fart, you taste salt.
Yeah.
You know, it's mad, like, before they had a name for it, like, we were salty babies. But it's like, you can't, the cell can't, what's the word? Like,
it can't normalise like it wouldn't a normal person.
Yeah, and the salt, there's some kind of issue anyway, like a defect with the salt, that because of that, then like you don't. Like, do you know the way now in the lungs?
Yeah.
There's airways and all that kind of thing. We can't get rid of the phlegm properly the way a normal person would. So we have to do intense physio to try and get it up. And the longer it sits there, then the more damage it's causing, infections.
What's the physio like? What's that like?
There's a couple of different techniques. Like when I was a child, my mum had a thumper, and I forget, it was like a big foam thing. And I was like, it's over her lap. And like this kind of
like breaking
cupping, you kind of cupping you along the back, like, and
then you're trying to get the phlegm up.
Yeah. And that's kind of basic then, like, but then as I got older and medications and all that kind of came about, there was more nebulizers to break down the phlegm, then nebulized antibiotics and all that kind of thing.
Must have been tough as a teenager, growing up watching all your friends enjoying themselves with drinking, smoking and everything else.
Sure, I don't have that. I did, like, and this is the thing, I was a saucy bitch, like, I was, to be fair, and I rebelled against it. I still rebel against it some days. Do you know? I think everyone with CF kind of gets to a stage where they're like, you can't get away with it that much longer, do you know? Like, I got away with it for years. I was always very lucky when I came to my CF that I had it mild until I did get sick, do you know, and there's a lot of denial around it as well, I think. Do you know?
Do you know when you got sick, as you said, it got worse? What happened, or what age?
Well, it kind of started in my teens. My first time in hospital was when I was about 13, I think. And then I wasn't in for, I got a big infection that time. And then I wasn't in for another good few years, but then it became a cycle. Do you know, it started off being like once a year, and then it was twice a year, and then every 3 months, and all through my 20s was kind of like that. Now I'd still get times in between, do you know, but then I was in an awful lot of denial. Like, I always kind of downplayed how sick I was, you know. Even I think you kind of do that.
I think that's a Cork thing too.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're kind of, you can't be feeling sorry for yourself now. Like, let's get up and get on with it. Like,
I
you know,
think denial helps you to cope a little bit better. Yeah. Like, if I fully realise what I'm going through here is going to be very traumatic. You know?
Definitely, and even you kind of do it to protect the people around you as well.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know,
I say it must be very difficult for parents of children.
Yeah,
like that.
But I that's what I wanted to say as well. Like, now, I know now, like, even half the things I speak about are traumatic, and for young mothers that give birth to kids with CF now, it's a total different story. Do you know what I mean? Because they wouldn't, like, I've had years and years of infections, and like, I started the drug 2 years ago. I'm probably getting ahead of myself now, but like, that's done very well for me, but I'd still have damage. Yeah. Whereas all the kids that have been born these days, they'll go, well, the majority of them, because there's some that the drugs don't suit their genetics and stuff, but they'll start the drugs much earlier, so it's more preventative. Do you know, that kind of way. They won't.
Advances in medicine are happening all the time, so the next generation won't get it.
I wouldn't have ever thinking, even in my day, that there'd be the drugs there is now.
Sure, I work in a drug and alcohol service, as you know, and like, there's people that come to our service that have hepatitis, that they can get cured for it, hepatitis C. Yeah. But back in the day, hepatitis C was a big thing. It was destroyed your liver. Yeah,
it's a death sentence.
But now you can get cured from it for taking a tablet for 10 weeks or something.
I know, it's mad. Like, it's mad.
That's the question I was going to ask you. Like, you're 36, and there's been so many different breakthroughs through the medical side of it, you know, and is there something that's coming down the line that will even give you more help?
So, like, the drug that I'm on now would be like, it's kind of the newest version of, like, Kaleido would have been the first. Would have been the first drug, and Jesus, that's about 10, I'd say it's even nearly 12 years ago now. I never went on that because that was kind of, I'm on it now, but that don't work without the drug I'm on now, if you get me. It was only for people with G551D gene, because there's all different genes and stuff. But that only suited their illness back then, whereas now I needed something extra, just say, so the two drugs in together now is Kaftrio is what I'm on now.
Have you kids
No, no.
Does it affect somebody from having kids?
Yeah, so like most girls would be, there'd be some that would be infertile, but just because of the mucus, it blocks the cervix now and stuff like that. Whereas with men, it's most males are infertile. But like that doesn't mean that a girl couldn't get pregnant, because they can. But like it just depends on how sick you are and how well you are. Like I know plenty of people with kids and they're flying now, you know. But it just depends on how the damage that's done already, and
even the emotional aspect of it, like the thought of, if I have a little boy or a girl now, will they have CF?
Yeah, like I was advised not to get pregnant. They were saying under
So do you know if you got
no circumstances, like, because my lung function is too low. I still have a low lung function.
Yeah.
So would it be like advice not to get pregnant because of the harm it could cause you, as opposed to passing on to the baby?
Yeah.
Because the two parents need to have the gene.
Yeah, the two like if I just say if I was having a partner, they could be tested and stuff, and if they had one copy of I've Delta 508, which is the most common. It's the most common in Ireland. And if I met somebody and they had just say one copy of Delta 508 as well, there's a 50% chance then, you know, that the child will have CF. There's still a chance that they mightn't have CF, you know, even if they're both are carriers.
Would you recommend people that are thinking about having children to go and get screened?
I don't think so. Me and my sister only had this conversation yesterday, to be honest. I don't think I would, because like my sister was offered, when she was pregnant on Robin, she was offered to go and get tested, and her partner as well. And she said no, because she was like, it's not going to stop me having kids.
Yeah.
Like, she's seen me. I lived my life. I've lived a life. Like, I haven't been sheltered.
Yeah.
Do you know, whether I was right or wrong at the time, I don't know. Like, but I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know? So like, it's not the end of the world now. It's not the end of the world now if your child is born with CF the way it was. Even 20 years ago, it had a different outcome. Like,
even you know, the 2.5 years it took them to catch it with you.
Yeah,
they can catch it immediately. No,
they can. Every child is screened now. Exactly, every child, you know. Which is brilliant. They should have brought it in years ago.
That's great, and that helps people.
So it catches it straight away, like,
and it helps them to understand as well. We can still have kids.
Yeah,
you know, but the only thing is it could actually potentially kill you.
Yeah.
You know,
but like that now, I have to stress, like, that's just me. Like, not everyone is like that. It's just because like my lung function is 30 odd now. But like when I started the drug, it was 20. Do you know, 20 odd. I went down to 16. That was my lowest, like, and I was still in denial. I still thought I was grand.
I seen,
I still thought I was grand.
There was photographs of you there. You put up a transformation post there a few months ago, but there was a photograph of you where you look healthy now. Yeah. And then was one where you looked very sick.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Like how
and it actually took a lot for me to share that picture.
I know,
like,
and
it wouldn't mean nothing to nobody.
It was very inspirational.
Yeah.
But like how, like, what, you know, when you're sick and you're that thin, what's life like then? Like what were you going through at that time?
It was just a struggle. Like, everything was a struggle. Like, even putting on your clothes. I remember, like, I can emotional now. I remember one time I was going to hospital and my friends had to put on my socks. I never the two girls down on the floor putting on my socks, like, because I couldn't get dressed.
Didn't have the energy.
Didn't have the energy, and like just breathlessness and stuff like that. Like there's a difference. Like when you grow with CF, whatever, you get infections and stuff like that. So that damages the lungs the whole time. Do you know, every infection leaves more damage, you know, and like the top of my lung, my upper lobe is gone. So like it's kind of sunk in, it's collapsed, you know. Yeah. So like that's always gonna, like, there's having infections, but then there's been damages, the breathlessness and needing oxygen and stuff. And I rebelled against the oxygen. I was like, I don't need it, when they were talking about getting it at home, whereas I probably should have. Yeah. Do you know, that kind of way? And that's all more stress on the body, do you know, because that's putting stress in your heart and stuff as well.
Do you know, when that flare-up came, what causes the flare-ups?
It just, like, you start off just coughing, like, and that's the thing with CF, is so cruel. Like, it could just whip the floor from underneath you, because one day, like, I'm all dressed up going out on a night out, and the next week I'm in hospital. Do you know, that kind of way? It just kind of creeps up on you, like. Now you kind of, sometimes I can nearly always feel it. Do you know, I'm an expert at coughs at this stage.
What helps it outside of medication? fitness, food,
diet,
yeah. Well, fitness is a big thing, whereas I'm not really fit. To be fair, I could do a lot more, like you know. But and just keeping the physio, keeping your chest clear, the whole time. Exercise is unreal, but like 20 years ago, they'd be like, "Oh no, you can't exercise." Do you know, that kind of way? Like, like the things are changing all the time. Like we used to all be brought away on holidays together. Like I went to Disneyland with Pamela, my friend now, and big groups of us went to Disneyland, whereas now we can't be in the same room or can't be, you know, it's very strict. Like,
oh really?
You know, it's all cross-infection because she could have, like the pseudomonas now that I was speaking about earlier, I could have my version of it and Pamela could have her version of it. The same way, like, I think a lot of the COVID kind of things are similar to the way people with CF have lived all the time, because we would have had to worry about bugs mutating now, and you know, infections changing and all this kind of thing. You know, whereas you could have one version, you could have another version, and then you could, you know, cross-infect one another, and it could be a super bug. Yeah. Do you know, that kind of way? Like, what there's about, loads in it, like, it's mad.
What about COVID and CF?
Yeah, do you know what now? At the start, I was afraid of my life. I had it 5 weeks ago and I was actually flying. I was grand. Really? Yeah, I was grand.
Obviously boosted and vaccinated and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was boosted.
Probably would have been different this time 2 years ago.
This is it. Like, if I got it this time 2 years ago, I don't know. Like, it's coming up now to my like my 2-year anniversary on Calf Trio. And I always say it because, like, 2020 was the worst year for everyone, but I got my life back in 2020. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I isolated earlier than everyone. We were advised to cocoon. But what happened was I went downhill from it. So, like, what happened was I have no car. So my friends, I wasn't allowed in any of my friends' cars. I live, you know where I live. I live on a hill. No matter what, you come out your door, you have to walk a hill. Yeah. So I couldn't really get out to exercise. So I was just staying in my room, like, and just going downhill. And I was in a lot of denial about it. I was like, oh, that's my asthma. That's my, you know, I have a cold, you know, all this kind of thing, allergies, all that, regardless that I had a fucking lung disease, you know. Yeah. I'm sorry for cursing.
No, man, we'll curse away.
But I went downhill, and then I went into hospital, I think it was April. And I put it off and off because it was during the pandemic. So I was kind of like, if I go in there, I'm not allowed outside my room. Like, you've no contact with people, no visitors, all that kind of thing. And to be fair, I should have gone in a lot sooner. I went in and I just collapsed in a heap. Like,
how was your actual mental health around this period?
That's what I was just going to start. Because that's an awful lot got to do with it. And I think the emphasis now, like, even speaking with my own CF team, there was a European conference there last year, and that was the number one issue that they were speaking about is mental health. Not even just with COVID and isolating and all that, but in general. Because, like, I would have always lived my life, like, I never planned past next week, you know, and I know that sounds good in one way, but it's not in another way when you're 36 and you've suddenly realised you have a bit of life left.
Does it affect?
Well, I do, like.
That's brilliant.
Do you know, it is, like, it is.
You can see it in the smile in your face, you can see how much you're alive.
Yeah, I know.
Does it affect your ability to have relationships, like,
it would, because you kind of, like, even with everything, not even relationships, with everything, I never plan nothing. Like, I never studied my junior, studied for my leaving, and, like, do you know, that kind of what's the point with everything? Do you know, with everything you'll be kind of like that, whereas now it's kind of like you get to a point and like, oh, maybe I should have settled down, maybe I should have started to learn to drive, like,
well, you're 2 years like on that. This new medication now.
I know.
You know what I mean? That the time is now, like.
I know. If you would ask me 2 years ago, even, like, that would have been the darkest kind of time that I ever went through. I was in hospital for 7 weeks.
Go out at?
Yeah, 7 weeks. And
what was it like?
Oh, it was hell. It was hell, like, because the first few weeks were a blur. But, see, with CF and when you have so many repeated lung infections, like, I was retaining gas, which means technically your lungs are failing. It's respiratory failure when you're, you know, the whole bodily function is like your blood turns it into carbon monoxide, whatever, all that kind of stuff. I'm not good at medical speak.
We inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon monoxide.
Exactly, to me. Yeah. Or James, sorry. Yeah. But so I was retaining the gas. It wasn't turning back into oxygen or whatever. So I was on oxygen. I was on steroids. I fully give the steroids all the credit for keeping me alive, to be honest with you, because the antibiotics had stopped working at that stage. And that's another danger of being on so many, like, they're very strong antibiotics, like they're IV antibiotics, and it's not just one, you're on like 3 at a go, you know, and you're on it, it's intense, like, and that have its own side effects. But they stop working after a while when you've had them so much. And then I got an anaphylactic shock to another IV antibiotic like 5 years ago or something. So I can't go with that or none of that family, you know, that kind of way, because I have to be desensitized to it and all this kind of thing. So, but that time during COVID was the kind of, like, I had given up, even though I knew Trikafta, like it was Trikafta then, but the European version is Kaftrio. I knew that was coming, but I had kind of given up hope of getting it at that stage. Like, I didn't think I'd be around anymore, you know, first. I was kind of giving up. Like, in a way I wasn't giving up, but, like, because what else can you do? You have to kind of go on. Yeah. But, like, I was up in my own head, like, a lot, you know what I mean?
That sounds like I'm here now and I'm listening to you, and I'm putting myself in your situation and thinking, right, because...
It is, it's crazy, and it feels surreal even looking back at it, like.
Yeah, and you know, like, a lot of people fear death.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're staring death in the face, like you have all your life, because potentially, as you say, you don't plan ahead or whatever.
It's all you know.
You know, you also have to carry a really, really strong form of acceptance in your life around your situation, you know, and it sounds really sad.
Yeah, I know.
It does, to be that lonely, like, and it sounds like you're living your own world in your own head as well. Do you have any groups that you have outside help?
Like my team, I just have to say, like my team, they'll probably be all watching this now.
Yeah. Hi team.
I couldn't speak highly of them. Like, they're like my family. Yeah. If there's anything at all going on, I ring them. Like, I ring them before my own friends. Yeah. They know me better than my own friends and family, because I tell them what I wouldn't tell everyone else, because you're kind of protecting them. So they know me in and out, like Claire, James, married, the whole team. So there's like a dietitian, there's physios, there's a big team of them, you know, and they're second to none. Like, they're always at the end of the phone. They're the best in the country. Like, they're known for it. Like,
so they're your higher power.
And my old nurse Kathy, like, she was the original like nurse, and she set the bar then for them. Do you know, that kind of way? Like, they're brilliant. They're brilliant.
Does
like,
everybody have a team like that around them then?
Well, see, I don't know if every kind of like other illnesses and stuff, I don't know, because I've never really heard anybody ever talking about their nurses the way we would ours. Yeah. Do you know, that kind of way? That's true. Like, we're kind of like a family, because like, even it's very strange with CF, but we all know each other. Like, we in our area now, like, we would have known Charlie and Vanessa, Shy babes at them when they were kids. You know, they passed away now. 2 sisters. That's then Cara. Jim's daughters, yeah.
And that was from CF? Them.
That was from CF. That was my first kind of, when Charlene died, was my first kind of...
Yeah. Fright,
yeah, because, like, what would I have been? She was 19, the two of them were 19. There was 2 years between them, and between their deaths, like. But I would have obviously, like, when I grew up to my hospital, they used to be saying to me about the girls look up to you. The girls look up to you an awful lot about Charlene and Vanessa, you know, that kind of way. So you kind of, you take them under your wing. Then they're the younger ones, and same with Cara, you know. So that's why it broke my heart when they all passed before me. Do you know, that kind of way?
Did they have like a particularly severe version of it?
No, it's not that. It's so like Charlene and Vanessa had the same gene as me, whereas Cara had a different gene. She had the G5518. So there's no kind of, this one is worse than the other. There's none of that. It just all depends on how it affects your body and what time it affects, like everything. Yeah. Like, some people beat cancer, some people don't. Yeah. Do you know, that kind of way? Like,
were there 3 siblings? Were there 3 sisters?
No, Cara was there. Cara and Vanessa were actually friends, and Vanessa and Charlene were sisters.
Cara is Jordan Cairns' girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
And Colin Corn and Corna's family.
Okay.
And like Jordan would be a friend of the podcast with Miles Gaffney and the Corns from Harvey Road, and we'd be thinking of all them and Jim and his family, and
and they're all lovely.
And we were talking off camera as well, like there's a lot of people in Ireland actually have it. And you were saying it's actually known as a Celtic disease.
It's a Celtic disease,
so England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland.
It's mad. No, like when I look up, obviously we were Googling it and all that kind of thing. And there's like, it's mad because there's a big community over like Jewish, Ashkenazi, Jews. There's a big load of them over there and you're like, should the Irish get over her? Like,
I know, they're probably from by the Elysian there originally.
But originally it was Celtic. The Celtic.
Do you know, so there's the 3 girls there that died.
Yeah.
You know, when you're growing up or when you get flare-ups, do you be afraid that that's where it's going to happen to you? Or?
This is the thing, and it's not even a fear because I wouldn't be afraid of it because like it's weird. It's weird. You can't even describe it. Even when it comes to the girls, it's like there's a constant guilt there. Do you know? Because it's like, do you know, you just compare anyway, whether or which, and there's nobody can tell you any different. You will do it anyway. Do you know? You'll always compare like why was it them and why wasn't it me, and do you know, stuff like that, like and the fact that like Cara was on a drug, but the 2 girls never got the chance to get on a drug, do you know, and if they like Orcan became shortly after Charlene and Vanessa died, do you know what I mean? Whereas if they were around and got Orcan B, God only knows, like they, do you know, they could have thrived, like, do you know, and that's the kind of sad part about it is the people that you lost.
I know.
But like I remember my nurse Kathy saying to me, I don't know, I can't remember now what it was at the time. It was not long before she retired. And she was saying that this generation is the last generation to really know the cruel side of CF.
That's great.
Do you know, which is very fucking good. Like there's more adults in the adult clinic now than there is in the children's clinic, which speaks a lot, like. Yeah. Do you know, we're getting to adulthood.
Yeah. Do you know the treatments for CF?
Yeah.
Does everybody get the best treatment that's available, or do people with money get a better treatment again?
No, to be fair.
Is that... Okay.
No, it's not like that at all. Now, I don't know, but the way they do it in America is a lot different. Like, you'd hear them talking about having the insurance, having to cover the drugs and stuff. Like, my drug costs, like, I think it's like $250,000 a year, something like that, just for like 1 year's worth of my drug, which is mad when you think about it. Like, you can only get a month's worth at a time and all this kind of thing.
They make you think of the countries where they can't afford it.
Yeah, there's a lot of countries that still haven't got Trikafta, like, or Kaftrio.
That's why we're fortunate that we live
here. We are very lucky. Yeah. We are very lucky, but I think that is because of the high incidence of it in this country. Do you know, we're a small country, but like we've a lot of people with CF for the population. Do you know?
I'll be very honest. I am a little bit naive. I've often heard of cystic fibrosis, and I always knew that it was a serious disease to have.
It's mad. There's a lot.
I never actually spoke to anybody like yourself to explain your story. Yeah. And you know, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is, and it's hard to grasp as well.
Yeah,
it's like, when you're talking about the guilt there of, you know, people passing away and you survive, but that's a similar thing that we would experience. So when I think of friends I had like Vincent and Anthony. Yeah. That passed away, and you think like, how come like I have a good life now and I'm happy and all these things, and they didn't get the opportunities that I have.
And that's it. Like,
why did I survive and not them? And
it's like a survivor's guilt.
It's just like but you go on then and you make people aware of the condition, try to educate, and then you try to have a bit of gratitude. At least, you know what, I'm healthy now today. I'm happy. I have opportunities in my life, and that's why I'm going to live my life. And knowing how dark and how bad it can get, and using that as like. There'll be nothing come in my life now that'll trouble me, because I know how fucking what real struggle is like.
I'm laughing now because I remember my friend Jess that dropped me off her dad.
Thanks for the coffee, Jess.
When we got out of when I got out of hospital that time, like I was still recommended to cocoon, and my mum was sick at the time, so I had to go down to my sister's house, and I was isolating for a few weeks. But after that, I was like, I'll never again shut myself away like that. I didn't think it was worth what I endured for it, like, because I did get very sick from not being able. Now, I could have obviously gotten out, but I couldn't walk 5 steps that time without being completely breathless and all that kind of thing. But I remember my friend Jess went off to her dad and said she was calling off to me, and he was like, oh geez, because COVID was still rampant at the time, and he was like, you're calling off to her? And she was like, well, Rebecca said now that if she didn't die of CF, she's certainly not leaving COVID. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, it's true though, I'm not like, do you know,
I think COVID has lost its strength a little bit.
Yeah, it has.
And I don't want to say that out of like, but thankfully we have these different vaccines and stuff and boosters and it's helping people massively.
And all the different variants now and everything.
Weaker, isn't it?
Yeah, I was grand with it, thank God. Yeah. Now I know it's funny because I remember saying to my nurse at the start of the pandemic, I was like, sure, our infections are pneumonias. Like, they are that serious, our infections. And I was like, if COVID came into our lungs, I'd probably be like, oh, fuck, I better get out of here. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot going on there. Do you know?
No, I'm not going into it. There's too much to deal with.
Yeah, and to be fair, people with CF are doing well with COVID. Like, we're doing well, do you know? Whereas at the time, when it first came out, it was like, hide them away. And
you're probably battling worse for a lot longer.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? And we are, like, to be fair, like that time when I was sick in hospital, that time, like, just COVID was the last of my worries, to be honest with you, like. And the thing was, I had started getting panic attacks and all that kind of thing because I couldn't draw my breath. Yeah. So like, so I was starting to get panic attacks, and even just like, because all our rooms in the CF ward, we all have ensuite bathrooms. Do you know, it's brilliant up there now, to be fair, it is. But so like, it was literally 5 steps to the bathroom. And I was like sitting in the bed bawling, crying because I didn't want to get up and walk the 5 steps because I knew I'd be like gasping for breath afterwards and stuff. Now my team were brilliant because I came in just before the weekend, so the weekend staff didn't really know me. Yeah. And I was kind of like, just like that panic the whole time. And I never forget, my nurse Married came in on the Monday, and like I said, now I wasn't holding out no hope for the cafeteria, like. Yeah. And she came in on the Monday morning and she was like, you're going to get it, like, you're going to get it. She was like, hold on, you're going to get it. And she got it for me within 2 weeks.
What was the problem? Was just to get it over in time?
It wasn't licensed here. It wasn't licensed here. I was getting it on compassionate grounds. Which at the time, because my lung function was so low, I did qualify for compassionate grounds. But like, even people that I know that were on it before me and all that, they all like had to jump through loops to get it. Like, it took so long.
And is it licensed now?
They got it for me in 2 weeks.
Is it licensed now?
Yeah, it's licensed now. It's licensed now. And they have some kind of gateway agreement that whatever new drugs come in, they're rolled out straight away. Yeah. Do you know, which is brilliant. Like,
what's life like now for you?
Brilliant. Very busy.
Is it?
I'm mental.
What's your day to day like at the moment?
I'm working away now. We just finished confirmations, 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning. But no, it's brilliant. Like, to be fair now, I could, like, even the last couple of weeks, I had a few nights out and stuff. And like, if I done one night out 2 or 3 years ago, I was fucked for the week, like, you know. And even back then, I was working back then as well. But I was literally going to work, like, I worked mostly weekends with the do makeup. So I'd work on Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And I'd be in bed like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday till I'm going back to work. Yeah. Do you know, that kind of way? Whereas now I'm like up while I do you know, that kind of way? Yeah. So
you don't find a person with CF then that's a smoker or anything like that? That's completely...
No, it's kind of not recommended.
No, I definitely not. But look,
I would have been there too, trust me.
I know.
Yeah. I would have a lot more bags as well.
And this is it. And you do rebel. Like, I remember my nurse saying to me, she was like, even if you went up to a gym bunny and said, you have to go to a gym every single day for the rest of your life, like, you're going to end up hating it. Yeah. Do you know? And like, the thing is, with people with CF as well, where it's weird, even the person who diagnosed me, Dr. Tess Halloran, she's dead now, God rest her, but she loved me, like, and I was spoiled rotten. I played on it, you know what I mean? I was spoiled, like, and I'd go out there and they'd have to pin me down to get the spatula thing down my throat for a swab and all this kind of thing. And she said to my mum, she's like, do you see that feistiness now? That's what's going to get her through. She'll fight her whole life, do you know? And I was like, because I am, like, do you know? Yeah. It's mad what you bounce back from, like, that you wouldn't think that you'd bounce back from.
You must have really, like, from going through all this down through the years, you gain an unbelievable strength in ability to be strong.
It's mad because, like, it's weird, like, to be honest, and that's a big thing. I was talking about mental health after being so sick like that. Like, you think that now you're on you're on the drug and you're doing so well that here's your new life and go out and do it. But it's like, no, everything that you didn't deal with your whole life. Do you know that kind of way that you put to the back of your mind? Because like, c'est la vie kind of thing. Whereas now it's like, no, I'm fine now. But for about a year after I started the drug, like my mental health was very bad. Because I was like, all things that I lost a friend when I was very sick. In them few years where I was in and out of hospital, I lost a friend that I never really dealt with. I cried when she died. Do you know, and stuff like that, but I never actually dealt with it. And then that hit me after I was better. A lot of stuff like that. But then at the same time, I don't think I'd ever give it back. It's the weirdest thing, like, because it's after making me the person I am.
Exactly,
I don't sweat the small stuff, do you know? I don't worry about stupid things. Now, obviously, I do get off my head about stupid things sometimes. It's
like as the saying goes, you know, and people might have heard this 100 million times, but the three of us here throw problems up on top of the table.
You take back your own.
You take back your own because you've learned to deal with them, you've learned to accept them.
It's what you know.
You know, and we'll go out and we'll live our lives and we all have problems and we have all pasts that we're not proud of and shit that we've done. But you know, there comes a point in your life as well where you have to accept the stuff that is and say, it's here.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, and we'll keep going.
How you react to it.
Exactly. And that only comes with time and work on yourself and understanding life.
Maturity as well.
Exactly,
I do think age is a lot, isn't it? When, like, even now, the last kind of couple of months, even I'm seeing things in a different perspective than I would have seen them 2 years ago. Do you know? But and a lot of people with CF, it's like an identity, like, do you know, it's like, and that's what I think a lot of people struggled with when I struggled out with myself when I first went on the drug. And like for that summer, I had a great summer. Like I was going to the beach, I was walking here, walking there. I couldn't get off the fact that I could walk without choking or, you know, all that kind of stuff. But like, you still have a bit of an identity crisis because you're kind of like, who am I if I don't have CF? Do you know, who am I if I'm not sick?
You're a survivor.
Do you know, that kind of thing, survivor.
You're a survivor.
Yeah.
And that's what you are.
I know.
Maybe like you're 2 years now in a good recovery, right? Maybe now you take it on to the next phase now of your recovery, like, and it's about like self-exploration, maybe do a bit of counselling, do a bit of group work or something like that.
That's, I've never even mentioned the CF Association, like that. Well, there used to be an association, there's CF early now. They're so good, like they support us the whole way, even, and that's what the fundraising was for last week. They're brilliant, like, and they pay for counselling for us. There's exercise grants, there's fertility grants that people get if they were having trouble now starting or whatever, going to have a child. There's so many things, even during the pandemic, we all got like €100 for PPE and stuff like that, you know, whereas you wouldn't really see any other association or whatever
so fair play
do
to
that,
CF
like, and that's all fundraised
and
money, like,
CF
very,
month,
very good.
CF month, or is there a day?
Yeah, CF Awareness Month, but the 8th of April was Cystic 65 Roses Day.
Okay, so but April is the month.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get this podcast out in April. Yeah. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.
No bother.
If people want to follow you and give you lovely comments, where can they get you?
My Instagram, Bex Murph.
And we'll link that in the description and on the Instagram. But thanks a million for coming down and talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Really well.
Thank you.
Well done. And hi to your family and your friends and your medical team. Yeah. And thoughts and prayers with Jim's family and Jordan and the Corns and the Gormans and all them, like, and everybody else who's lost loved ones through CF.
Yeah.
And shout out to all the survivors too. Yeah. So thanks.
And your story will also inspire anybody that's coming up behind you who
definitely
had similar struggles, you know.
It's not the same now as it is, as it was back then, like when I was born.
Yeah.
See you later. God bless.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.